Welcome to our video, 10 nations that may soon shut their doors to tourists. As travel resumes across the globe, many countries are re-evaluating their tourism strategies to prioritize environmental sustainability, cultural preservation, and community well-being. Join us as we explore how nations like China, New Zealand, and Italy are taking significant measures to protect their unique attributes while addressing the challenges that come with mass tourism. Discover the potential changes these destinations might implement to safeguard their future for both locals and visitors alike. 1. China. The Zero-COVID policy aftermath. China, once a powerhouse for international tourism, is now reeling from the long shadow cast by its Zero-COVID strategy. The government's aggressive health protocols, once hailed for their effectiveness, have created a climate of uncertainty for both travelers and locals. In early 2024, authorities began hinting at further limitations on foreign tourist access, citing ongoing public health risks and a desire to remain vigilant against future outbreaks. The economic hit has been severe. International arrivals have plummeted by over 80% compared to pre-pandemic levels, and the tourism sector, which contributed nearly $1 trillion to the economy in 2019, is struggling to recover. Domestic frustration is mounting as citizens question the continued restrictions, sparking debates about the country's global openness. Several experts now warn that unless the situation stabilizes, China may opt to close its borders again to prioritize internal stability and health over tourism revenue. The government's next steps remain closely watched by the global travel industry. 2. New Zealand. Environmental protection measures. New Zealand, famous for its pristine landscapes and welcoming spirit, is at a crossroads. The nation's leaders have expressed growing concern about the environmental toll of tourism, especially as visitor numbers have surged by 30% in just 5 years. In 2024, the government announced stricter controls on tourist numbers, aiming to safeguard delicate ecosystems that are feeling the strain of overcrowding. Popular destinations such as Milford Sound and the Tongariro Alpine Crossing have seen record foot traffic, prompting local communities to demand urgent action. The tourism industry, while vital to the economy, is now being balanced against the need for long-term sustainability. Many officials believe that without significant change, New Zealand may soon be forced to limit international arrivals or even temporarily close certain sites. As the debate intensifies, the country could become a global example of how to put nature before profit. 3. Bhutan. Emphasizing high-value tourism. Bhutan has always offered a unique model for tourism, focusing on exclusivity and cultural preservation rather than mass appeal. The government's high-value, low-impact approach means that tourists must pay a daily fee, which helps limit numbers and fund local development. Since reopening its borders, Bhutan has seen a 50% jump in tourist arrivals, causing concern among officials about the strain on cultural sites and the environment. In 2025, the government is considering further tightening these restrictions, possibly lowering the cap on annual visitors. This move is supported by many Bhutanese, who fear that unchecked tourism could erode their traditions and unique way of life. The country's leaders have been clear about their priorities: culture and nature come before commercial gain. If the surge continues, travelers may soon find it much harder to secure a spot in this Himalayan kingdom. 4. Italy. Managing overtourism. Italy, a magnet for art lovers and history buffs, is grappling with the harsh realities of overtourism. In iconic cities like Venice and Florence, massive crowds are pushing infrastructure to the brink, while locals complain of rising rents and the loss of neighborhood character. In 2024, authorities began discussing radical measures such as timed entry tickets and strict daily visitor caps for high-traffic sites. Venice alone attracts over 25 million visitors each year, a staggering figure for a city of just 50,000 residents. The strain on public services and historical landmarks is now impossible to ignore. If these proposals are not enacted soon, officials warn that they may have no choice but to close certain areas to tourists altogether. For many Italians, the question is no longer whether to act, but how far to go to protect their cultural treasures. 5. Thailand. Balancing tourism and local needs. Thailand's idyllic beaches and vibrant cities have long drawn millions of visitors, but the tide may be turning. The government is re-evaluating its tourism priorities, focusing more sharply on the needs of local communities in hotspots like Phuket and Chiang Mai. Tourist arrivals have rebounded by 40% since the pandemic, sparking new concerns over resource scarcity, environmental degradation, and rising living costs. In 2025, officials unveiled plans to put the welfare of residents first, signaling a willingness to restrict access if necessary. Local activists have become increasingly vocal, demanding limits on development and greater protection for natural sites. The tension between economic gain and quality of life is growing more pronounced. If a new balance can't be struck, Thailand could soon introduce quotas or even close certain regions to international travelers. 6. Japan. Cultural preservation efforts. Japan is experiencing an unprecedented tourism boom, and with it, mounting anxiety about the impact on its cultural identity. The government, keenly aware of the risks, is weighing options to limit tourist access to sensitive historical sites, especially during peak travel seasons. With visitor numbers expected to reach 40 million by 2025, famous destinations such as Kyoto's temples and Tokyo's heritage districts are feeling the pressure. Locals have voiced concerns about overcrowded streets, disrespectful behavior, and the erosion of traditional customs. In response, officials are considering measures like reservation-only entry and reduced daily quotas for certain attractions. The challenge is to welcome the world without losing what makes Japan unique. Many fear that if these efforts fall short, some sites might be closed off altogether for preservation. 7. Iceland. Protecting natural wonders. Iceland's otherworldly beauty has become a double-edged sword. The island nation has experienced a staggering 300% surge in tourism over the past decade, drawing visitors eager to witness its geysers, glaciers, and volcanic landscapes. However, this popularity is placing fragile ecosystems under severe stress. In 2024, the government began exploring ways to limit access to vulnerable sites like the Blue Lagoon and Golden Circle. Environmentalists warn that continued unchecked visitation could cause irreparable harm. Officials have floated ideas ranging from strict quotas to rotating closures, with some areas already experimenting with seasonal shutdowns. The debate is emotionally charged, as many Icelanders cherish their natural heritage and worry about losing it forever. Without bold action, there's a real possibility that Iceland could become off-limits to most tourists in the near future. 8. Spain. Addressing local discontent. Spain, a perennial favorite among global travelers, is witnessing a groundswell of local frustration with mass tourism. Cities like Barcelona and Madrid are grappling with overcrowded streets, rising rents, and the loss of neighborhood character. In 2025, city officials began debating tough new restrictions on tourist numbers to improve the quality of life for residents. Barcelona alone receives over 30 million visitors each year, a figure that dwarfs its local population. Protests and political campaigns have called for stricter controls, arguing that unchecked tourism benefits investors more than ordinary citizens. Ideas on the table include tourist taxes, limits on short-term rentals, and even partial closures of popular districts. If local concerns continue to escalate, Spain may soon prioritize its citizens' needs, reshaping the tourism landscape dramatically. 9. Australia. Wildlife conservation efforts. Australia's famed national parks and unique wildlife are under threat, prompting government officials to rethink their approach to tourism. Since the pandemic, visits to national parks have surged by 25%, raising alarms about the impact on endangered species and sensitive habitats. In 2024, authorities began considering restrictions on access to some of the country's most beloved reserves, including Uluru Kata Tjuta and Kakadu. Conservationists argue that the survival of iconic animals like the koala and Tasmanian devil is at stake. Proposals under discussion include strict visitor quotas, higher entry fees, and even temporary park closures to allow ecosystems to recover. Many Australians support these moves, believing that protecting nature is more important than short-term economic gains. If these conservation goals aren't met, tourists may soon find certain wonders off-limits. 10. Greece. Balancing tourism and heritage. Greece, with its legendary ruins and sun-kissed islands, faces the delicate task of protecting its past while embracing the future. Tourist arrivals have climbed by 35% in recent years, intensifying the wear on ancient sites such as the Acropolis and the temples of Delphi. In 2025, government officials entered talks about imposing new restrictions, including entry caps and timed visits to heritage landmarks. Local residents and archaeologists warn that without decisive action, these irreplaceable treasures could suffer irreversible harm. The tourism sector is vital for the economy, but there is growing recognition that unchecked growth poses a real risk to Greece's cultural legacy. With the stakes so high, there is a sense of urgency. If preservation efforts fail, tourists may soon find themselves turned away from some of history's most cherished sites.